I used to think my childhood was simple. Not perfect. Not dramatic. Just normal. My mother raised me alone in a small 2-bedroom house at the edge of town. She worked long hours at a local clinic, came home smelling faintly of antiseptic and lavender hand soap, and still managed to cook dinner almost every night. We didn't talk much about the past. Whenever I asked about my father, she would smile softly and say, "Some stories are better left where they belong." When I was younger, that answer felt mysterious. When I became a teenager, it felt unfair. By the time I turned 26, it felt like a wall between us. The day she finally told me the truth didn't start dramatically. It started with a phone call. Her voice sounded thinner than usual. "Can you come over tonight?" she asked. "I made your favorite." I remember laughing. "Mom, you don't have to bribe me with food." "It's not a bribe," she said quietly. "It's important." Something in her tone made my chest tighten. When I walked into the house that evening, everything looked the same. The framed photos on the hallway wall, the old clock that ticked a little too loudly, the faint hum of the refrigerator. But the air felt heavier. She was sitting at the dining table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. "You're scaring me," I said, pulling out the chair across from her. "I know," she replied. "I've been scaring myself for 26 years. I tried to joke, but she didn't smile. Instead, she reached into a drawer and placed a small envelope on the table between us. It was worn at the edges, like it had been opened and closed too many times. "I should have given you this a long time ago," she said. I stared at it. "What is it?" "It's the beginning of the truth." My throat went dry. All my life, my father had been a blank space. No photos. No names spoken out loud. Just a quiet absence that hung over birthdays and graduations. "Is this about him?" I asked. She nodded. I didn't touch the envelope. "Why now?" She looked at me in a way she never had before. Not as a child to protect, but as an adult she needed to trust. "Because you deserve to know who you are," she said. "And because I'm tired of carrying this alone." Her words weren't dramatic. They were tired. That's what scared me most. She began without looking at the envelope. "I met your father when I was 21, she said. "He wasn't supposed to matter." I felt something shift inside me. For the first time, he was becoming real. He was passing through town. He had plans. Big ones. Bigger than this place. She gave a small, distant smile. "He talked about cities like they were promises." "And you fell in love," I said. She hesitated. "I thought I did." That answer surprised me. She told me about long drives with no destination, about laughing too loudly in cheap diners, about believing someone who said forever like it was easy. "He told me he wasn't ready to settle down," she said. "But he also told me he'd never leave me." I could hear the younger version of her in that sentence. Hopeful. Certain. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought it would change everything. I leaned back slowly. "But it didn't," she continued. "It changed me, not him." The room felt smaller. "He left?" I asked. "Yes." The word was soft. Not bitter. Not angry. Just honest. I waited for the rage. For the blame. For the dramatic details. But she didn't give me any of that. He said he wasn't ready to be a father. He said he didn't want to ruin both our lives. He said I'd be better off without him. "And you believed him?" She looked at me directly. I didn't have the luxury not to. That sentence hit harder than anything else. She explained how she had considered calling him after I was born. How she had stared at the phone more nights than she could count. How she had written letters she never sent. "Why didn't you?" I whispered. "Because every time I looked at you, I realized I didn't want someone in your life who wasn't sure about you." Silence stretched between us. All those years, I had imagined some grand betrayal. A hidden scandal. Something dramatic enough to justify the secrecy. Instead, it was something simpler. Fear. Youth. A man who chose himself. "Do you hate him?" I asked. She took a long breath. "I did. For a while. But hate is heavy. And I was already carrying you." I felt something twist in my chest. guilt mixed with gratitude. You never told me because you wanted to protect him? I asked. No, she said gently. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you growing up thinking you weren't chosen. I blinked. What? If I told you he left because he wasn't ready, you might have thought you were the mistake. I couldn't risk that. Her voice cracked for the first time. You were never a mistake, she said firmly. You were the one decision I was absolutely sure about. I looked down at the envelope. What's in it? I asked. She slid it toward me. Inside was a photograph. A younger version of her stood beside a man I had never seen before. He looked ordinary. Brown hair, serious eyes, a half smile like he wasn't used to being photographed. I searched his face for something familiar. And there it was. The shape of the jaw. The slope of the eyebrows. My reflection softened. He doesn't know about me? I asked quietly. She shook her head. The idea that someone out there walked through the world unaware of my existence felt surreal. Why tell me now? I asked again. She reached across the table and took my hand. Because you've been asking without asking, she said. Every time you joked about having mystery genes. Every time you paused at Father's Day displays in stores. I saw it. I swallowed hard. I hadn't realized she noticed. And because, she continued, I don't want secrets to outlive me. That word, outlive, echoed. Are you sick? I asked immediately. She smiled faintly. No. Just honest. Relief washed through me, followed by something deeper. For years, I had quietly resented her silence. I had told myself she didn't trust me with the truth. Now I saw it differently. She had been trying to shield me from doubt. Do you regret it? I asked. Raising me alone? Her grip tightened. Never, she said without hesitation. I regret being young. I regret believing promises too easily. But I have never, not once, regretted you. I felt my eyes burn. All my life, I had imagined a missing piece. But sitting there, I realized I had never actually been incomplete. I used to wonder what was wrong with me, I admitted. Why someone could leave without looking back. She flinched slightly. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. Nothing was wrong with you. Sometimes people leave because they don't know how to stay. That sentence rearranged something inside me. We sat there for a long time talking not just about him, but about her. About how scared she had been. About the nights she cried quietly so I wouldn't hear. About the pride she felt watching me grow into someone kind and steady. I thought if I worked hard enough, she said softly, you wouldn't notice the gap. I did notice, I replied. But not the way you think. I noticed how you showed up. Every game, every recital, every bad day. She laughed through tears. I was overcompensating. You were loving, I corrected. For the first time, the story of my life felt whole, not because I knew his name, but because I understood hers. Before I left that night, I picked up the photograph again. Do you think I should find him? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. I think, she said carefully, that you should only look for him if you're not looking for validation. You don't need his acknowledgement to matter. I nodded slowly. On the drive home, I expected to feel anger, or urgency, or even curiosity strong enough to chase him down. Instead, I felt calm. The truth hadn't shattered me. It had grounded me. In the weeks that followed, my relationship with my mother shifted in subtle ways. We talked more openly. We laughed about things she used to avoid. The silence that once felt protective now felt unnecessary. One evening, as we washed dishes side by side, I said, "You know, I used to think you were hiding something from me." "I was," she replied with a small smile. "But not because I didn't trust you. Because I didn't trust the world to be kind with the information." I dried a plate and looked at her. "You don't have to protect me from everything anymore." She studied me for a moment. "I know," she said softly. "That's the hardest part of watching you grow up. The truth didn't give me a father. It didn't rewrite the past. But it did something more important. It gave me context. I stopped seeing my life as a story that began with abandonment. I started seeing it as a story that began with choice. She chose to stay. She chose to raise me. She chose to love me without hesitation. And maybe that was the stronger legacy. Months later, I placed the photograph in a small box in my closet. Not hidden, not displayed, just acknowledged. One day, I might decide to look for him. Not out of need, not out of anger, just curiosity. But I no longer felt defined by his absence. The day my mother finally told me the truth wasn't explosive. It wasn't filled with shouting or dramatic revelations. It was quieter than that. It was a woman admitting she had been scared. It was a child realizing she had always been wanted. And it was the moment I understood that love isn't proven by who stays perfectly. It's proven by who stays consistently. That night didn't change who my father was. It changed who I thought I was. And that made all the difference.